Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unique Peace on a Wednesday evening. I am Janice. I'm your host. I am the quiet healer here on Long Island, a Reiki master teacher and medium. And tonight I will be joined by Debra Markowitz, a film director, a writer, and a fellow Reiki master teacher here on Long Island. And tonight we're going to be talking about Reiki and writing and directing and the film scene here on Long Island and what brings Debra peace. So join me in welcoming Debra Markowitz.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, that's exciting. So you have been in the film industry and the film scene here on Long Island for quite some time.
Yeah, about 33 years. I started, actually 35 years ago, I started by creating the Nassau County Film Commission, which I ran as film commissioner for 33 years. And I left about 2 years ago to concentrate on the filmmaking side of my career because I'm also a writer and a director. And then the Reiki came later after that. But yeah, I've been around for a while.
You've been around for a while. So what led you to film first and foremost?
The funny thing is, I think I was always destined to go in that direction because I was like, the 8-year-old where my parents would bring their friends over and their friends would bring their kids and I'd direct little plays. I didn't realize it was directing per se. It was just, okay, now you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And I would just make up all these plays. And then when I was in high school, I, was in the drama club and then I took theater in college, but after a semester of that, I decided I'm not gonna be able to pay my bills. So I'm
So you weren't part of the starving artist package?
well, I just knew that I couldn't. Yeah, I just didn't see it happening. So I decided to switch to business, business management. And the funny thing is, after dabbling in 5 million other jobs, I decided to go for an interview with the county executive at the time. Was a special assistant to the county executive for like a year, hated it. And I started looking around at other departments. And there was a department called Commerce and Industry. And they would do like 2-3 film permits a year. So I kind of had to put together for the county executive that we could make a lot of money. I can get him a lot of publicity. And now I'm still in college at night. And in my business class, I think it was marketing, we had to do a special project. And I said, we're going to do a commercial. And I wrote a commercial and directed it. And still didn't occur to me that that's what I was doing.
You should be doing, yeah.
Directing and writing. And several years into the film commission, somebody came to me with a script that they needed cast. And they knew that I knew a couple of celebrities. And the only reason I even read the script, because I don't generally read scripts, was because the county executive sent them to me. So I ended up reading the script and said, you have the wrong actors. This is who you need. And he asked me if I would be his casting director. Now, one thing great about working for the county, at least when I started, is I never really even took an entire week off. So I had just dozens of vacation days. So if I wanted to make a movie, I took off a week. I didn't go on vacation. I made movies. So I cast a short film, and then I decided I wasn't going to do that again. And then 3 weeks later, I get a call from the director of the Queens World Film Festival and said, I have a director who has a script and she needs a producer and a casting director. And so out of respect for her, I figured, let me read the script. And about 10 pages into it, I realized it's one of the best things I ever read. And I'm like, oh, God, I gotta have to do this. So I ended up casting. And then once I did that, I wanted to see what made directors crazy. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do a short film. And my husband and I, John Marine, who shoots most of my movies these days, we would push the idea back and forth. And I said, well, do we just make it for nothing and just no money and just no names and just whatever? Or if we get a name, then we have to know what we're doing. So we decided I was going to do a zombie comedy called The Last Taxi Driver. And in it, I have Robert Classy from Blue Bloods and Deb Twist from Kick-Ass and Emily Jackson from Incarnate. And I said, well, now we got to make this short. This looks good. So since I hadn't made my own movie before, I hired a bunch of young filmmakers right out of college. I'd seen their films come through the film festival. And I said, all right, well, let's raise the money and let's make this movie. I make something I think is a horror film, and it turns out to be a comedy. And it starts winning awards. And I'm like, I don't even know how that happened. It got into the monthly screenings at Holly Shorts, which is an Academy Award nominating film festival. So I'm like, how does that even happen? You know? But, and then I guess I should say about 26 years ago, I met Ann and Henry Stamfel and Bob Hansen, and we started the Long Island International Film Expo. So now I've got my day job, you know, my 9 to 5, just helping people from every movie and television show in the world get permits and locations to shoot their films. I have the film festival, which I'm doing on my own time. And we're meeting filmmakers from all over the world. And then I started making films for other people and my own film. So I kind of have every aspect of the film industry behind the camera, because I've also acted in films, in front of the camera, sideways of the cameras. I mean, pretty much everywhere. So I don't think that I chose it. I think that it chose me, because it just wouldn't go away.
It's like in The Godfather. They keep bringing me back.
Yeah, kept finding me. I decided that this year that I wanted to write a lot more than direct, because unfortunately, if you're doing a film that's a week long, it's not a week. It's 4 months, because it's several months going in. It's another couple of months going out, and I have so many projects that I started that I haven't been able to finish. And now it's like, this is the year I finish at least four features, you know, 4 feature scripts. So I already finished one. And now I'm actually doing the novella companion. And I'm in my second pass of that. So I want to have that ready for a proofreader, hopefully by end of this month. And then I'll go on to the next one. So.
That's all very exciting. So with all of that commotion, it sounds like a lot of fun commotion, but it is very stressful on many levels. I have a lot of friends in the theater, and I'm learning in the film industry as well. And as a writer myself, I mean, as they say, writing is easy. You just stare at the piece of paper till the blood drops from your head.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm very familiar with that. How do you find and bring peace? How do you find peace first and foremost for yourself?
That's something I've been looking for my entire life. I was always very high strung, very nervous, very shy, actually, when I was younger. I think my first 2 boyfriends I never actually spoke to. We had notes back and forth because I was so terribly shy. I learned just the way I learned to do what I do as far as public speaking, whatever, is I would bring my acting into it. And I would act as if I was confident. I would act as if I knew what I was doing. I would act as if, you know, that I was confident. I would get up there and say, okay, I do this all the time. I'm great at this. And I would just talk myself into kind of doing that. So as far as the peace end of it, that was my public persona, looking peaceful, but lots of yoga. In fact, 5 this morning, I was doing yin yoga, you know, for an hour. That's how I also started, where I had the desire to learn Reiki. The weird thing is I was already doing healing before I even knew what Reiki was. I didn't know why, but if my husband or somebody hurt something, I would just kind of, you know, just know that I had to concentrate and put my hands on them. And, you know, maybe it was in their mind, I don't know, whatever, but they would usually be helped. And when I learned what Reiki was, I said, oh, you know, that kind of sounds like what I'm doing. So I took 1 and 2, and the person I studied with didn't do it anymore. So I just COVID happened and whatever. And then I ended up finally taking my master class with this yoga, meditation. Nature is the best. When things are really bad, especially if it's just a quiet day, and I'll go in the morning, you know, when a park opens at 7 a.m. and no one else is there, or, you know, and just have the quiet and the sounds of nature, and do Reiki while I'm walking. You know, no headphones or anything, because that's not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to say nature, walking is huge for me. Music can be amazing. The right music. Like I love Sleeping at Last. I don't know if you ever listen to them, but when I clear my room, I play that, and it's just, the vibrations are amazing. Um, it's been a lot of work really always, and it's always ongoing, just staying away from sugar even because that will make me really jittery. I cannot drink regular coffee because I will just be a nervous wreck,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will, believe it or not, decaf has enough caffeine in it that'll just give me enough of a lift where regular coffee will make me crazy.
I have another friend where that is the truth as well. So,
Mhm. Yeah. So it's just, yeah, again, yoga and nature and music and quiet. I need quiet time by myself. My dog really gives me peace. She's a bit challenging because she's a rescue with some issues, but there's just nothing like sitting next to her and just, she mellows out and I mellow out. And, I don't even know what I'd do without a dog, to be honest with you. Because or an animal, but I'm allergic to cats, so it's dogs. you know.
at least you don't have anything personal against cats, because I love animals, but I'm more of a cat
Mhm.
person.
Oh, it's writing. Writing gives me peace. As hard as it is, because it's really taking the time and nailing yourself to the chair, so to speak. But I wrote a trilogy of novels called the Karmic Wind Trilogy, and it's Naked in the Rain, Sarah and Caleb, and Karmic Wind. And I think probably back in 2001 I started, and then finished it a couple of years later. That gave me peace because I was going through a lot of difficult times, and I basically, even though the story's not autobiographical, there were kind of a lot of metaphors for pain and whatever. And writing each one of those just healed me so much. And I know I should go back and rewrite them because I'm a better writer now, but I don't want to read them again. It's like I feel like the past is locked in those books and it should stay there. But I've gotten some great feedback on it. And when people tell me thank you, that reminded me so much of my life, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. This reminds me of your life. This is awful. But it just really helped me channel pain onto the page, basically, and then heal myself from that. So it's a multi-pronged, effort to really kind of stay grounded.
Yes, staying grounded brings a lot of peace, because it's the connection.
Hmm.
Like if you're too far up here, it gets a little discombobulating for people, and if you're too grounded, you get lost in the sauce or the chaos.
Yes. Hmm.
And speaking of chaos, you're on movie sets, you're running festivals, you're managing your household, and all of that is, fun. So now you're nice and calm. So how do you help everyone else be calm? How do you bring peace?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've always been empathic. I know how to get people to come out of themselves. I mean, in a work environment, the reason why I was such a good film commissioner is I could talk to people who would not speak to anybody else because I would come from a place in a business perspective of what do I need to do to make you feel comfortable? And people go, oh,
Mm.
nobody ever asked me that, but they would come in and demand you do this, demand you do that. I don't want to give out names per se, but I needed to call somebody about a location, and everybody is telling me, don't talk to him. Terrible. Don't talk to him. I said, just let me talk to him. If he yells at me, he yells at me. Let me talk to him. And by the end of the conversation, he said, I was ready to yell at you, and now I do not want to talk to anybody else in the county but you. And if
Oh,
he
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if he'd send something out, like after this great conversation, he sent out a letter saying we need 3 weeks notice, and I called him up and I said, hey, I see this, but you realize that can't really happen because some things turn over in a week. And he said, oh no, that's for everybody but you. It's, what can I do to make it comfortable? Well, we'll have to have somebody oversee it. I'm like, okay, what would that cost? Well, this is what it costs. Okay, what else can we do? And because you want somebody in a business perspective to feel comfortable with you, that you respect them, because you respect them, they're going to want to deal with you. As far as helping other people, I just kind of know who to reach out to and say, hey, everything okay? Do you need to talk to somebody? Do you need Reiki? What can I do for you? That's much more of an intuitive process. There's people who I worked with years ago who will call me on a personal basis, like, hey, can you help me with that? I know I can talk to you. I don't know that that's anything in particular that I do on a personal level. I just do it, but I don't think about it. It just kind of comes out of me. But Reiki is awesome. It's great to treat somebody, especially when you don't know exactly what's wrong, and then you tell them, and they say yes. That's exactly.
Isn't that wonderful? I love when that happens
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and then they get the relief, which is awesome when you can do that. Um, I mean, I can be absolutely a nervous wreck, at times. But when things are difficult for other people, I can just be there. And I think that's probably one of the most important things you can do for somebody is just to be there.
And when you're like directing and you feel that the set might need some calming, or it's just too much, just too much, because it can be too much. I mean, I was in one theater production in high school, and it was too much. I that's when I kind of figured out I can be behind the scenes, but
Mhm.
not on stage. Not in front. And our drama teacher had the best way of finding a way to calm the entire crew, the cast. She kind of even helped the music director when we were doing musicals. Seen her work wonders in calming the whole set and cast down. Do you have any tricks, or have you found that? Are you just like the eye in the storm?
Um, I am the eye in the storm, but I work with a lot of the same actors. Not always. I mean, every now and then you need to bring someone else in, a name or somebody I haven't worked with before. But um, all of the actors who I've worked with know that I'm not going to make them look bad. And that's really important. And I've had them say that to me, like, okay, this is a little, I know you're gonna, I'm okay. You'll make me look. Yes, of course, I'm gonna make you look good. And if there's something in the script that I've written that doesn't feel right to them, we'll talk about it. And if they make a suggestion, if sometimes they have a better idea than I do, I'm all for, you know what, let's go for that. And sometimes, nope, this is important because of whatever. But um, it's such a true collaboration. It's like they know I'm the director. What I say is going to go, but I hire people who I respect. Either if John's shooting it, and I have a series called Couple of Guys, and I'm using the same DP that shot my first 3 films for that, since he started with me, and that project's been going on forever. We don't always agree 100%, but he gets what I want, and I totally trust him that if he goes, Debbie, this is going to work, it's like, okay. And it always works, because I trust him, I respect him. And I think if you respect the people you work with, then it's just going to be so much mellower. And I've had to fire a couple of people. It doesn't happen often, and it hasn't happened in a while, but just somebody, if you are a problem to anybody on my set, I will throw you off of my set. I directed for somebody once. She'd been trying to make a movie for years, and she just couldn't do it. And somebody said, call Debbie. Debbie's the only one I know who can get it done for that amount of money. And I met with the writer, and she was telling me she was a theater person, so she says, and I'm sure she is, but she just said, well, I yell at everybody on my set and they all respect me. I said, they don't respect you, they're afraid of you.
They're afraid of you.
I said, so if you want me to take this on, I said, I'm going to get you actors you would not be able to get without me, and they're going to do it as a favor to me, which they did, and they're going to do it for very little money, which they did. And basically, I told her, if you raise your voice on my set, I will kick you off of your set. I don't care if you're paying for it or not. Nobody yells at my actors. We go behind the door. We can have a quiet conversation if you have an issue, but I will not put up with that. and I actually just wrote a name out of one of my projects. I'd worked with her several times before, and I never had a problem. And one set that I hired her for, I wasn't directing it. She just lost her mind and was yelling at everybody, calling the sound guy names. And I wrote her out of my project. I said, I can't take a chance that you're going to lose your mind. I can't have that. I can't do that to people. So people know if they're going to be on my set, they're going to be treated well. They're going to be respected. And that's why they're just almost always really good and calm. And yes, stressful. Sometimes we have to do a really long day just because the location is only available and it's the only day we can get all the actors we need. It's a big scene or whatever. But, that's usually not the case. Usually we end very early. Everybody's fed really well all day long. There's all the breaks that they need. It's, I give people their space depending on how they work. And I really haven't had a problem. And I trust the people around me to help because it's absolutely a collaborative effort.
That was my next question. Do you feel it's a collective energy? Like if one person is off, then the whole energy of the set is off. In not just in film, but just in general, in any situation. If
Yeah.
you're there, you feel the energy is off. Is it a collective, or is it okay? How can I help this person, or what can I do to make the situation better for all, so that we're all in a calmer state?
Well, you have to figure out, yes, energy can absolutely affect it. As I said, every now and then you have to bring in a new actor, and it's tricky to a point that if they can't do what you thought they could do, is you can't make them really nervous and then they just shut down. So you have to find a way to make it work for them and still work for the project. So it's basically just people knowing they can go to you, and that you can ease things up. Just talking about energy, when I started making my own movies and going to film festivals, the first year or two I started going to film festivals, I would be sick for 3 days after because my energy would just be depleted because I'm surrounded by all these people who want to talk to me and they want jobs and they want this or that, or just I would be exhausted. And I really had to learn how to protect myself. So now that doesn't happen anymore. I go in and I'm blasting my energy out so nothing's coming in, and hopefully the good is helping everybody around me. And I'm no longer soaking it up like a sponge. So I had to really work on that. But I usually do try to get to know the people who are going to be around my set to make sure they get along with everybody else. And we've been very lucky. There's one or two maybe incidences over the years, but those were really early on. And as soon as that was a problem, it's like, that person doesn't come back. Not here. Go have a good life somewhere else, because it's just, it's difficult enough, so you want to work with nice people. They have to be able to do the job, of course, but there's plenty of nice people who are capable. So, no reason to not do that.
So, when you step away from the set and you're trying to bring the calmness to your own family or your friends or any of those kind of dynamics, how do you find it differs when you're trying to make your set peaceful versus you managing real life? Not that your set isn't real life, I acknowledge that, but you have a life after directing movies and you go home and, okay, I'm friends with the dog. Now you can talk to me. We can go, it's like,
Yeah, I get along really, really well with my husband. I know people always say best friends, but we really are. We just we're silly together. We talk together. He is just the best. I mean, I can't even explain it. This is something that happened since COVID, and I really have to work on it. I think a lot of us have almost a collective PTSD from everything going on and living through plague time. And I could be perfectly fine and calm, and one little thing happens, and all of a sudden I'm just like, the world's falling apart, And it doesn't happen often, but it just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. And what happened is I just took a bite of chocolate, and all of a sudden I felt something, and I realized my tooth broke. And I was afraid. I just got really afraid. And I'm telling my husband, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at it. Look at it. Just look at it for me. And he goes, yep, it's your tooth. I said, okay. I said, I don't want to look in the mirror yet. And he said, it's okay. And he's hugging me. And I don't know why I just shot up like that, because I don't usually do that. And I calmed myself down. I did a couple of things in the kitchen. I said, all right, I'm ready to stand here, and it was something in the back, and it was ended up, it was actually a tooth that had been rebuilt. So it wasn't actually my tooth, but it looked like my tooth. So it
Right.
didn't hurt, but I don't know what I was thinking. And I go to the most amazing acupuncturist. He's an NAET provider, neurovascular something or another, but they
Oh,
do,
wonderful.
oh, the best. They deal with emotions, they deal with whatever. And he said to me too that a lot of people really had serious PTSD from COVID. That you could be fine, but something small would just make people really overreact in ways they would not have previously. So that happened way back in the beginning, and then just the other day, and I'm like, I think I need to see him again, and just to calm me down, because that just flipped me out. And it didn't hurt, so it's not like I should have been. Oh my God, my tooth hurts. It just scared me for whatever reason. So and I also have I have really awesome friends. I know that I have to see them more, and that's one thing I was just telling John. And the last 2 weeks we saw, like four of our friends, two couples, and it's just like because they also keep me calm. We all they have such great energy, and it just feels so great to be with them. Um, and it's like, okay, we're going to visit my mother. That will be very stressful. But we're going to visit these two friends while we're here. And on the way back, we're going to stop and visit those two friends. And then we're going to visit these two. So it's really important who you surround yourself with. And
Yes.
I can be alone a lot, and I'm really actually good with that. But every now and then it's like, oh, I need to see people. I need to see people I like. I need to see people that make me feel good. And luckily, I really know a lot of them. So that's pretty terrific.
If someone were to come to you, a friend, your husband, just a coworker, somebody on your set, and they're like, I'm really struggling today, what tools would you pull out of your toolbox to help them find some sort of peace and ease?
Hmm. Well, it depends what it is. Like I have one friend, a much younger friend, who is amazingly talented and totally can just blow up, so to speak. Is not blow up, but just he builds himself into a crazy kind of fever, and I have to sit there and say, okay, you're fine. Let me know what's going on. Okay, okay. And then I'll do some Reiki and calm him down and say, okay, you do know that you do this all the time, right? And he's like, and then we do, so that's how I would deal with him. With other people, it's just, hey, do you want some Reiki? If you want to talk, that's fine. But if you don't, would you? And usually be like, please, that would be helpful. It's going to depend on the situation. And who the person is and what they need, because everybody's different. But it's they know what I do, and if they need it, they'll call me and say, hey, could you please help me? Can you help me? I could use this. And I seem to know how to help them because I know all the tools I've had to pull out for myself, or like, get outside. It's a nice day. Go to the park, just walk around. Don't talk to anybody. Shut your phone off. Just sit there, have a cup of tea, get a couple of tea from Dunkin' Donuts or something. Just, because usually that's what you need. If you're overstimulated, you need to bring that down. And if you need somebody to hold your hand, then I'll be there to hold your hand. But if you need to be alone, and I find that almost more the case in a way, it's figuring out what that person needs. And it's much easier for me to figure out someone else's life than my own. I seem to know, hey, but you can do this too, especially like a lot of young filmmaker friends that I have, that they just don't know how to do. So they're very talented, but there's just things they haven't done yet, and it's like, okay, well, you do know you can try and do this. That's a really good idea. Or you do know, I'll see a job somewhere and I'll just send it to this person, and it ends up being their dream job that I wasn't even sure they wanted, but something told me I needed to make the connection, so it's a lot of different stuff. I love one thing I do too is I also study natural medicine, with the Good Medicine Society, which is Native American and Celtic magic medicine. And sometimes it'll just be something, all right, you know what, you're going to get a cup, you're going to put some mint leaves in it. I'll give you some mint leaves, and this is what you're going to do, and it's going to help your stomach or help, there's just ways to get people to mellow out.
So you have a tendency to try and meet people where they're at.
Yes, exactly. That's the, actually, that's, I don't always know what to say to people. Some people I do, it just comes out, but other things I don't know what to say because they don't want anything said. They just want to be able to vent or just, get their frustrations out. And sometimes it's just, like you said, just meeting them where they're at, or sending them to somebody I think can help them, that I've been to personally that I think is amazing. Because we all know there's so many different ways to help people that have nothing to do with medicine, that have not, and because I've explored so much of that, it's easy for me to recommend or at least tell my side of it, and it tends to help people.
And what do you feel the biggest asset or benefit to peace would be for the general public? So, when you're finding your peace in the morning, or helping find peace on a set, or peace when you visit your mother, what's the biggest asset? What's the biggest draw in?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, you kind of have to pull yourself together to be peaceful yourself. I've also had to, like when dealing with my mother, who I love very much, who was such a difficult person, I've had to not take it personally. Like if she says very nasty things, and sometimes I would get hurt, but then I would just say, oh, why do you feel that way? And then she usually just doesn't know what to say, because it's not just really a legitimate thing, but it's listening to her and understanding that she's scared, to be 88 and alone, and it's just being there, protecting my own energy, so I don't come home like a lunatic, which does happen sometimes, but it's trying to be patient. It's trying to understand that is there a lesson there for me? It's been interesting. My father passed a couple of years ago, and I never usually spend more than 3 days with my mother because I just can't. But when he passed, I told my brother, I went down with my brother. I said, I'm going to cancel my plane tickets. I'm going to stay another couple of weeks, because I just knew I needed to, and help her do everything she needed to do. And I got to spend time with her in a way that I usually don't get to spend time with her. And there were times I was telling John, I could get the hell out of here. But then I would just try and calm myself down and just try to just really enjoy her. We're all different, and we're all in different stages of evolution and our own experience. And it helps, as my husband says, look at people, if they're really not evolved, he said, just look at them as toddlers. They don't know any better yet, because I just don't understand some things that people do, bigotry and racism and hate, and I don't understand it. I just can't understand it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Of course it exists, but they don't know any better because they were taught that way, and it's easy to live what you believe is your truth, because when you're very young, your brain's very malleable, and if you've been told these things, then you're just going to believe them. Doesn't mean you give them an excuse per se, but I can't hate people. I just can't do that. And you can get so angry, and it's like, that's not helping me. That's not helping anybody. And when the world blew up a few years ago, I decided I was not going to raise my voice at anybody. I was not going to call anybody a name. I would just basically say, "Oh, okay. Well, why do you feel that way? Well, why do you think that is? Well, hmm." And there were a couple of people who started out like just crazy, and then would send me a private message to go, "Thank you for not making fun of me, and thank you for. I actually kind of agree with you, but I can't say anything." But they get so pissed because people jump all over them, makes them fight back more. And sometimes you have to educate people. If somebody says something wrong, and it just happened with my friend's husband. He's a little older, and I'm not going to say the word he used. It wasn't racism, but he said something that was just a term people would have used many years ago, and these people just ripped him apart. And it's like, that's not helpful. You
Right.
explain why this isn't really proper, who this could hurt, and he wouldn't say anything to hurt anybody. It was just something that we would have said 20 years ago without thinking about it. So
There is a
yeah,
certain generation,
yeah,
and they need to be held with kid gloves.
yeah, yeah. And that's,
I
I don't
I
know if I'm going to say something that's going to upset somebody. And if I do, tell me, because I certainly would never mean to do that. I'm always trying to be considerate of other people. It makes life a little difficult sometimes because I don't know if, for example, if I'm casting something, I call one of my friends and I say, okay, how do I say that this this week? This is the kind of person I want. Am I allowed to say anything other than white? Can I say this? Can I say that? What can I say? And he'll say, okay, well now, because I don't know. Life is complicated, but I understand that. People have had a hard time, and they're trying to get the respect they felt they've always deserved. And so you want to be considerate, but you still want to be able to have a conversation. It's just not that easy anymore, but you do the best you can.
No, but that's where I feel a sense of inner calmness and
Hmm.
inner peace, wherever that level is at,
Hmm.
does help people. When people feel seen, heard, valued, and you try and understand them. So understood in all the chaos. I mean, I've been the eye of a tornado many times where everything is swirling and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell is going on, but I'm here when the cow's ready to land.
Hmm.
So do you find yourself in those kind of situations?
Um, yeah, yeah. I don't. I mean, I've certainly done my share of unfollowing people because I realize if I'm getting aggravated all the time, first I'm going to try to see if I can adjust my comfort level so that it doesn't bother me. But sometimes it's just better to just unfollow people because I just stupidity is so hard to deal with. Um, but but other people, I just let them say the thing and I'll scroll on by unless it's something that's just really so not factual, and say, hey, just so you know, that's actually not true at all. Like the way you feel about it can be that way, but and even that I'm trying not to do that because people kind of married to whatever belief they want to have. But
Well, it's also where they're at knowledge wise and the message that they want to send,
hmm yeah,
or they, to your point, they may not understand the message they are sending.
hmm
Then you accidentally pick a fight. The
yeah.
question then becomes, is it worth the argument?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I've had people, you don't have to agree with me. You can put, as long as it's not calling names or whatever, you can post something on my page. But the minute you cross the line, um, then I have to delete your message. And I'll tell you, hey, I deleted this because, and I've had people say, how can you still be friends with those people? I said, because I'm taking away that thing that really I don't like, but I'm going to have respect for them as a person, and that can help them grow if they know somebody's willing to talk to them and not just start yelling about you're wrong, because that doesn't help anybody. If we're ever going to come together, and you have to have that door open as much as you can. Sometimes you can't for your own mental health, but as I said, I've had those people just come by and say thank you, even though we don't agree. I appreciate you bringing a fresh perspective, and I'm going to think about this. And that's the only way that people are going to evolve and move on, is if we do it together.
Beautiful. In your travels and journeys through peace, what do you find is the easiest way to come to peace?
Easiest way to come to peace. That's a really good question. I usually do a grounding exercise in the morning, and if I'm really nervous, I will, do it whenever I need to. And you probably have something similar, which is kind of surrounding yourself with like just white light. Only love and light can come in and protect myself. And that has saved me so many times. And then also having your feet grounded to the floor. And there's also an imaginary belt, because I am without question empathic, and I don't mind being aware of whatever the people are going through, but I don't want to have to feel it. Like I would literally be walking with my husband, and all of a sudden I can't walk on my left leg. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, is your knee bothering you? Yeah. Like, okay. I don't want my knee to hurt because your knee hurts, but I want to be aware that your knee hurts. So, it's basically just grounding myself in the morning. And if I find myself starting to get very anxious, that's what I'll do. Or I'll do a quick meditation with some sound healing. I have ones that are only, 4 or 5 minutes long if I just really need to, to do that. Sometimes at night, if I can't sleep because, my brain's going a million miles, I have now they call them acupuncture mats. When I got mine, it was a spoonk mat, SPOONK, and you just lay on it, and 8 out of 10 times that'll work. You'll sit there and all of a sudden you'll just start to calm you, and you'll fall asleep, and then an hour later roll over and just throw it on the floor. But sometimes that doesn't work either. There's tons of tools. Tapping is another thing that will help, is tapping on your pressure points. There's so many tools that I've learned, and that I use different ones depending. So I'm just going to say the easiest is to just basically try and change my energy right then and there, and reframe something. Like, I have to remember, like, what's the worst thing that can happen, and that can be good or bad when you think about that. But, it's just, I know that I'm going to be okay. Even though sometimes it might seem it, I really do know I'm going to be okay. I do absolutely believe that I'm being looked after, so to speak.
Y'all are.
During Hurricane Sandy, I don't know if your area was affected, but Superstorm Sandy, and I was just all night long surrounding my house, surrounding my car, surrounding my block with white light all night long. I was so freaking exhausted in the morning. And the morning we walked out, our block wasn't touched. Everything else, power was out for months. Our block still had electric. It was crazy. And my husband's like, yeah, tell me you had nothing to do with that. I'm like, I don't know. But everywhere else, nobody has lights. I don't know. But, I have friends that basically call me the weather witch, because if I have something important to do, the weather almost always cooperates. I can go to Ireland for 8 days and it doesn't rain. That doesn't happen.
It is the Emerald Isle for a reason. It's been a pleasure to discuss peace and film with you today. And I thank you for being on, and I thank all of the viewers who are watching this now. And if you are watching in the future, thank you. If you have any questions or comments, please do leave them in the box below, and we will respond to them as soon as possible. And if you enjoyed the conversation and you're new, please subscribe. And thank you, Debra, for being on.
Thank you for having me.
We will see you on Sunday morning, everyone.